In the quiet province of Cebu, Philippines, lived a 10-year-old boy named Andres, whose days were filled with both hardship and hope. His family lived in a small wooden house with a rusted tin roof that leaked when it rained. Life was not easy. His mother sold fruits and vegetables at the local market, while his father worked long hours as a fisherman. Money was always short, and sometimes meals were nothing more than rice with salt. Yet, despite the struggles, Andres carried a secret treasure, his voice. Every evening, after finishing his chores, Andres would climb a small hill near his home and sing beneath the wide sky. His songs were not trained or polished, but they carried raw emotion and purity that touched anyone who heard them. Neighbors often paused from their work just to listen, whispering to each other, "That boy's voice is a gift from God." For Andres, singing was not just a hobby. It was his escape, his comfort, and his dream. One day, his school teacher, who had long admired his talent, told his mother about America's Got Talent 2025 opening auditions online. At first, they laughed at the idea. How could a poor boy from Cebu possibly compete on such a big stage? But the teacher insisted, helping Andres record a simple video on a borrowed phone. Nervous but hopeful, Andres sang with all his heart. Weeks passed, and then one afternoon, an email arrived that would change his life forever. "Congratulations, you have been selected to audition live in the United States." For Andres, the boy who once sang to the stars above Cebu, this was more than just an opportunity. It was the first step toward a dream he never thought possible. The moment Andres and his mother stepped onto the airplane, it felt like stepping into another world. Neither of them had ever flown before. Andres pressed his small face against the window, watching the clouds drift by, his heart racing with excitement and fear. "Mama, are we really going to America?" he asked softly. She smiled, holding his hand tightly. "Yes, Anak. And you will show them your gift." When they landed in Los Angeles, the city felt enormous compared to the narrow streets of Cebu. Towering buildings sparkled with lights, cars zoomed by in every direction, and people spoke in accents Andres had never heard before. Everything felt overwhelming, but he reminded himself of why he was there, to sing. On the day of the audition, Andres walked into the backstage area of America's Got Talent. Bright lights flashed, cameras rolled, and contestants with dazzling costumes and big personalities filled the room. Some were juggling, some were dancing, some were warming up their voices with confidence. Andres, dressed in his simple white shirt, shorts, and worn sneakers, looked out of place. But when his mother squeezed his shoulders and whispered, "Just sing from your heart, Anak," courage returned to him. Finally, a staff member called his name. "Andres, you're next." His legs trembled as he walked toward the stage. The huge auditorium opened up before him, thousands of people watching, waiting. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, sat at the panel, their eyes fixed on the small boy standing alone under the spotlight. Simon leaned forward, his voice calm but curious. "What's your name, and where are you from?" Andres took a deep breath, his voice quiet but steady. "My name is Andres. I'm 10 years old, and I come from Cebu, Philippines." The crowd erupted in cheers. The stage lights dimmed, and for a moment, there was silence. Andres stood frozen under the spotlight, gripping the microphone with both hands. His heart pounded so loudly he thought the judges might hear it. Then, the first notes of the backing track began to play, a classic ballad known for its difficulty and emotional depth. The audience leaned in, curious to see what this small boy from the Philippines would deliver. Andres opened his mouth, and the very first note sent chills across the theater. His voice was pure yet powerful, fragile yet commanding. Each lyric carried emotion far beyond his 10 years, as though he had lived through every heartbreak and every dream the song described. The audience gasped. Some people covered their mouths in shock, others reached for tissues, tears streaming down their faces. Heidi leaned toward Sophia and whispered, "This is unbelievable. He's only 10. Sophia, already wiping her eyes, nodded in awe. Howie sat frozen, unable to take his eyes off the boy. And then there was Simon, known for his sharp critiques, sitting utterly still, his face softening with each note. As Andres hit the soaring high note in the chorus, the crowd erupted with applause, cheering him on, but he didn't falter. He kept singing, pouring his entire soul into every word. By the time he reached the final note, holding it with strength and control, the audience was already on their feet, giving him a thunderous standing ovation. Andres lowered the microphone, his chest rising and falling from the effort. For a second, he looked lost, unsure of what had just happened. Then he turned his head toward the side of the stage. His mother stood there, tears rolling down her cheeks, her hands clasped in prayer. In that moment, the little boy from Cebu realized he had just touched the hearts of the world. The theater was still echoing with cheers when the lights brightened again. Andres stood in the middle of the stage, trembling, his small hands clutched at the microphone. He didn't know what to expect: praise, criticism, or silence. The judges rose to their feet with the crowd, clapping and smiling, but all eyes were on Simon Cowell. Simon remained seated for a long moment, his face unusually soft. Finally, he leaned forward, speaking slowly. The crowd exploded into cheers louder than ever before. Golden confetti burst from the ceiling, showering Andres in a magical rain of shimmering light. The boy dropped to his knees, overwhelmed, his hands covering his face. His mother rushed from backstage, running onto the stage to wrap her arms around him. Both were crying uncontrollably, lost in the moment. Simon rose from his seat and walked to the stage, placing a hand on Andres's shoulder. He bent down, speaking gently, "The world needs to hear your voice." The audience erupted again, chanting his name, Andres. Andres. That was the night a poor boy from Cebu became a star, his dream sealed with golden confetti. The video of Andres's golden buzzer moment spread across the internet within hours. Clips of his angelic voice and Simon's emotional reaction filled timelines on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Headlines around the world read, "10-year-old Filipino boy stuns AGT with golden voice," and "Simon Cowell in tears after child's performance." Within days, millions of people had watched his audition, leaving comments of love and admiration. Back in Cebu, his neighbors gathered in small homes and community centers, watching the viral clip on old televisions and phones. Tears flowed freely as they saw the boy they once knew as the market singer, standing on one of the biggest stages in the world. "That's our Andres," they whispered proudly. "He has given hope to every child here." For Andres, life changed overnight. He was no longer just the boy who sang under the stars, he had become a global symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of dreams. Invitations poured in, interviews, television appearances, and messages from fans around the world who said his voice had touched their lives. Yet, despite the fame, Andres remained humble. When asked what he wanted most, he replied, "I just want to make my family proud and sing for the world." Simon's words that night echoed in every headline, "The world needs to hear your voice." And it was true. Andres's journey was only beginning, but his story had already become an inspiration to millions. He had proven that greatness can rise from the most unexpected places, a small boy from a struggling family in Cebu who dared to dream and touched the hearts of the world. That night, under golden confetti and bright lights, a star was born.